The key to understanding this lies in the precise definition of the protection Allah grants to His prophets and the specific type of error they can make. Allah does protect the prophets, but this protection has a specific scope. It is not a protection from all human error, forgetfulness, or minor lapses in judgment. Instead, it is a protection from two critical things: major sin, kabair. Prophets are infallible in the sense that they never commit major sins, either before or after their commission as prophets. They do not lie, cheat, steal, commit adultery, or disbelieve in Allah. Error in delivering the divine message, this is the most crucial aspect of their protection. A prophet can never make a mistake, forget, or intentionally alter the revelation, Quran, Torah, Gospel, etc. they are commanded to deliver. The message remains pure and intact. Now, let's address the errors that are mentioned in the Quran. These are not sins of disobedience or moral corruption. They are better understood as minor lapses in judgment, zala. These are minor errors in matters not directly related to the core message of revelation. They are often referred to as slips or lapses in a matter where independent judgment, ijtihad, is required. A means of teaching and establishing a law. Often, when a prophet makes such a lapse, Allah immediately corrects him. This serves as a powerful lesson not just for the prophet, but for the entire Muslim community, establishing a new ruling or clarifying a principle. Let's look at some concrete examples from the Quran to illustrate this distinction. 1. Prophet Adam, as the error, he and Hawa, Eve, ate from the forbidden tree. Analysis. This was a direct disobedience to a specific command from Allah. However, it is not considered a major sin, kabira, in the same category as shirk or murder. It was a lapse from which he immediately repented. The story serves as a lesson about human nature, the temptation of Satan, and the importance of sincere repentance. It shows that even the father of mankind, in a state of innocence, could slip, but his swift return to Allah is the model for all humanity. 2. Prophet Musa, Moses, as the error. In Surah Al-Kahf, Musa accompanies the mysterious knowledgeable servant of Allah, Khidr. He promises not to question any of Khidr's actions but fails 3 times because he cannot comprehend the seemingly destructive acts he witnesses. Analysis. This was not a sin. It was a lapse in patience and a failure of judgment based on his limited, worldly understanding. The entire episode was a divine lesson for Musa, and for us, that Allah's wisdom encompasses things beyond human comprehension. The error was the vehicle for a profound spiritual lesson. 3. Prophet Yunus, Jonah, as the error. He left his people in anger and frustration before receiving explicit permission from Allah to do so. Analysis. This was an error in patience and timing. He abandoned his mission post prematurely out of despair. He was then swallowed by the whale, where he repented and was saved. His story is the ultimate lesson in never giving up on Allah's mercy and remaining steadfast in one's duty. 4. Prophet Muhammad, Pbuh. The Quran itself corrects the Prophet on several occasions, which Muslims see as proof of the Quran's divine origin. Surah Abasa, he frowned. The Prophet once frowned and turned away from a blind man who interrupted him while he was preaching to a powerful chieftain, hoping to win him over. Allah revealed, he frowned and turned away because the blind man came to him. But as for he who thinks himself without need, to him you give attention. Quran 80, 1-6. Analysis. This was a minor lapse in prioritizing worldly influence over sincere faith. Allah immediately corrected him, establishing the eternal Islamic principle that no believer should be disregarded for someone of higher social status. Surah at-Tahrim. The Prophet took an oath to refrain from something lawful to please his wives. Allah corrected him, reminding him that he should not forbid what Allah has made lawful. Analysis. This was an error in personal judgment concerning a domestic matter. The correction was a lesson for all believers about the limits of oaths and the importance of not falling into unnecessary hardship. Why does Allah allow these lapses? This is where the divine wisdom becomes clear. To humanize the prophets. If the prophets were perfect in every single human action, they would be impossible to relate to. Their struggles and minor lapses show us that they were human beings who faced tests and sometimes stumbled, yet they always turned back to Allah. This makes them perfect role models. To teach the Ummah, each error and its subsequent divine correction becomes a source of law and guidance for the entire Muslim community until the end of time. To demonstrate divine mercy and the power of repentance, the stories of the Prophet's repentance show that the door to Allah's forgiveness is always open for those who sincerely turn back to Him. To emphasize that the message is from God, the fact that the Prophet Muhammad was publicly corrected in the Quran is the strongest evidence that the Quran is not his own word. A human author would not include his own reprimands in his book. In summary, the protection of the prophets, Ishma, is absolute in matters of faith and delivering the revelation. The errors they commit are not sins of disbelief or immorality, but rather minor lapses in personal judgment, ijtihad. Acts of forgetfulness. Situations that serve as a means for Allah to teach a greater lesson to His creation. These narratives, far from being weaknesses, are integral to the Quran's purpose of providing guidance for fallible humanity. They show us that perfection belongs to Allah alone, and the true path is one of constant effort, occasional stumbling, and immediate, sincere return to our Creator.